After heroes, we get to units and we start with orc units. We start with a Tauren. So there are two things to say about Tauren. One, its upgrade Pulverize doesn't scale with upgrades, which is sad unlike the picture you see in front of you. And the second thing to look at is the radius of the Pulverize. So please watch the next video. This is a game of 40 versus Lin, and take a close look how does Tauren do in this fight.
It's 9 rifles. Fire Lord extinguished though, and with that you can always revive the Tauren if you have walkers. But for now, we only have one walker. Fire Lord made it to 2.5. It's half a level advantage compared to the last fight. Rifle damage uptime seems way too good. Lin is very focused on heroes, and I'm not sure if that does him any favors, to be honest. I doubt it. Oh man, the Pulverize always great though. Oh, now he's falling.
So upgraded Pulverize does 60 damage in the radius to 50 and does 30 damage in the outer ring of radius 350. And they actually have more or less equal area, and the center of the Pulverize is Tauren's center itself. So Taurens become naturally hard counters to melee units that approach them to fight with Taurens, and are very mediocre versus ranged units, because ranged units do not approach them, they're just spread out in fights, and Taurens do not reach them, only the closest ones. So that's why there is a suggestion to change Pulverize the way it works. First, we will increase Tauren's damage by 1. It's just to make our calculations and stats clean. So the main suggestion is to change Pulverize from a flat damage to a percent-based damage, from 20-10 to 60-40 at start, and from 60-30 to 120-80% of Tauren's damage after the upgrade. These suggestions are tentative, but how would they benefit the game is that orcs would be incentivized to research attack upgrades early in the game for grunts and raiders, because later they will know those will be used for Taurens. Secondly, Taurens, when they are out, would be a little bit stronger in the outer radius versus ranged units, and it will be even stronger with upgrades against ranged units. And finally, in the inner radius, they won't be that strong against melee units. So in the Orc Mirror, for example, Taurens will not dominate the ground at the start when they are out. So they will need a little bit more time and upgrades to become stronger in the inner radius range. For humans, there aren't that many ideas. So one idea is to reduce the number of masonry upgrades. Right now it's 3, and it's too many defensive upgrades for the tech tree. For example, for Orc, the spike barricades number of upgrades was reduced from 3 to 2, and it was a very good idea by Blizzard. So we suggest pretty much the same. Reduce the number of upgrades from 2 to 3 by removing imbued masonry, but giving plus 5% bonus hit points at level 2. In 1v1 games, human rarely researches advanced masonry, so now when they do that, they will get 5 extra bonus hit points, which would help them. Night Elves. So for Night Elves we have Hunts, and they got quite nerfed with their bouncing glaives removed. So what suggestion can we make to make the Hunts better? So one big suggestion is to make them the same as they were before in Tier 1. So we return them move speed, 340 to 350. We give them the one bouncing glaive to structures and from them. Why that? Because if we remove the bounce to structures, near the structures they lose a third of their damage. that 50% extra. That's a third of their damage. I think players already know how to deal with tier 1 hunts. It was balanced over time, over many years. They are fine. In general, hunts, they don't need much damage, and Night Elf has lots of sources of damage coming from Priestess of the Moon, from Roar, from upgrades from the Huntress Hall. They have a way to upgrade their damage, but they are weak because of their armor type. So in order to make them stronger, the suggestion is to move Moonglaive upgrade back to tier 3. It's a little bit awkward to have this armor change and the attack change together. So we move Moonglaive to tier 3, but we'll have armor upgrade change at tier 2, that is called Moonshield. It can be cost 100, and it will change Huntress armor from unarmored to medium armor. Medium armor actually the best armor for hunts. So with this upgrade, hunts will not get extra damage, they will not get extra bouncing glaives, but they have a very good armor type now, and they can, if they want to keep playing hunts, they can invest into Huntress Hall upgrades. With that, researching attack and armor upgrades at the Huntress Hall would be necessary, unlike now when players simply wait for tier 2 and research an upgrade that improves at the same time armor type and gives extra damage with extra Moonglaive. For the Moonglaive that is moved to tier 3, it could be boosted, and hunts with medium armor type, they can become very good roaming unit, maybe even destroying bases, I don't know. On a big maps they could be useful with their sentinels and so on. And we can continue with Druid of the Talon, and I think this unit can get some rework. Its first spell is quite weak comparative to other first spells. To slow from Sork, to curse from Banshee, to purge from Shamans, it's quite weak. Why it's weak? You can Fairy Fire a unit, and if you don't target it, if you don't focus it, you get no benefit. So a suggestion to make it a little bit stronger, maybe add a little bit of Soulborn effect that decreases attack and attack damage of the enemy, say by 10%. If so, you can increase the cost by 5 mana and slightly increase the duration. Undeads can benefit from a few ideas. One of them is to address Cannibalize. Cannibalize is strong, but what makes it weak is that the unit stays in place for too long. So one suggestion is to make this healing a little bit faster, 25% faster. So for ghouls, not 16 HP per second, but 20. But reduce the duration. So the ghouls that are healing eat faster, maybe heal less, but back to the army after 12 seconds. And that's I think this will be a buff. And if so, we can increase research time by 5 seconds because Cannibalize is the fastest upgrade. Most of the upgrades require at least 20 seconds. Like Sentinel upgrades, Flare upgrades, they all require 20 seconds. And the second thing is Shade. So let's take a look what we have for Shade. We talked about it 2 years ago. Back to Warcraft Neo, and Don Dolari had this on the list of suggestions from us. Unfortunately, Blizzard probably didn't see that video, so let's see it again.
Shade. Shade is it's not a bad unit, but it's pretty boring. It follows you around and being shady. Let's say you want to make it a bit more interesting. So the idea here is to give it an ability that it's called Enshroud. You want to show it or should we explain it?
I want to show it. Maybe people can guess what Enshroud would do. Guess the name gives it away a little bit, but I prepared this. We got a Shade, and if you're an undead player, you know this icon is new, Enshroud. Makes the unit invisible but destroys the caster's body. If the unit attacks, uses an ability, or casts a spell, it will become visible. Lasts for 2 minutes. There we go. Invis Crippy right there. That would be a new tool with an existing ability, I guess? Or is that created? I'm not too sure what the map makers did. But yeah, this is something one could do to a rather boring unit.
One of the most expected changes for undeads would be changes to necromancers. And here the suggestion actually is to go and do what initially Blizzard intended to do for necromancers. I think it was a brilliant idea, but somehow they deviated from it.
It was taken out of the game due to either glitch or balance concerns. I also think it's interesting that there appears to be 2 types of raised dead spells. Maybe you could choose between summoning skeletons and skeleton archers.
And this is exactly what we suggest. Let necromancers have 2 spells on the first level and no autocast, so they can choose what they can spawn, either warriors, 2 warriors, or 2 archers. And that possibility to choose what type of units, ranged or melee, to summon will make them stronger in the early game. Skeleton archers look better than skeleton mages. They don't have that flare, and they are slightly aesthetically more pleasing to see on the map. As for skeletal master upgrade now, it could simply be changed to give 50 HP. So skellies will have 230 and 240 HP, roughly that. And that's a good threshold because it's above dispel of priests and wisps. So the skellies will not die from 1 dispel. They still should be targeted at least by 1 hit to be killed. Also, the duration of skeletons should be 65 seconds right from the start, because that will help early necromancers to make more impact. The rest would stay same, and that would be the first change to do to necromancers to nudge players to use them more often. Necromancers need sources of corpses, but early in the game they don't have that opportunity, so why don't we introduce a new item on tier 2? Let's call it Tombstone. It will work exactly like Ivory Tower. Let's say 40 gold, 25 lumber, I'm not sure. So raises a small building with 300 HP light armor. And what it does, it provides blight, and it functions like a stationary meat wagon, storing 5 corpses in it. So you can buy this item, creep with it, you can take an expo with it and have that tombstone to defend it with necromancers. You can attack a player who expanded early on tier 1, having a tombstone or 2 in your pocket, because you can have summon skellies. And also extreme corpses upgrade can make them stronger, generating a corpse every 15 seconds. So you can see in the video how it could work. So to summarize, we have global changes, changes for human, then we have changes for orc, then changes for night elf, undead, and neutral heroes. That's everything. Thanks for watching. I hope to post a video on balance changes maybe in December. Hopefully these changes will be noticed by Blizzard, and we'll see some of them in the next patch or next year at BlizzCon. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.